All right, we're going to talk about what you need to have on your space layout for your sketchbook project. So you're going to have 2 pages, just like we've had for the other elements of art, and we are talking about space. Space really is a multitude of things. It is showing depth. We talked about yesterday that it's really like 3 things, right? It's showing depth in your page, making something look like it goes back in the distance. And there's different ways that you can achieve that. It is also about composition, how you arrange things within your paper, if it follows the rule of thirds, if it's symmetrically balanced, if you fill the whole space, if you draw it big, however you make decisions based on where you're going to put something in an image, that has to do with space. And then it also has to do with positive and negative. We talked about positive and negative when we were doing shape. I'm just going to flip back to the shape one. Oh, I don't think it's in this book. And positive and negative also has to do with space as well. All right, so don't get to thinking that positive and negative is only shapes. It also deals with space and what, how the viewer sees the space around the main thing that you draw. One of the activities we're going to do later in the week is an activity where you're drawing just the negative space. And it's a technique kind of like drawing upside down, where if you're drawing something difficult, instead of looking at the object, you look at the space around the object. And by the time you get that all mapped out, you've drawn the object without even realizing it. So we'll look at that later, but positive and negative is something that is important in regards to space. Now, on the project guidelines, I listed things that I wanted you to include on this space page. And you can just kind of do a little definition of the difference between positive and negative space. And the main thing is the positive space is sort of the image that you're actually concentrating on, and the negative space is the space that's around it. We're going to focus on positive and negative in our abstract design that we're going to do on the opposite page. But first I want to talk about how you can show depth in space on a flat piece of paper, and just some simple things. One of them is overlapping. So if we're just doing simple shapes, if you have a circle and you overlap one circle in front of another circle, it looks like one is in front of the other, so there must be some space there. You can also do it with size. If you have there might be some movement there with some space. You could even put something small toward the back. This was the horizon back here, right? So you can make something big and something small, and voila, you have some depth. The easiest way to see it like instantly is linear perspective, and that's when you have a horizon line and a vanishing point. And we're going to do a 1-point perspective drawing later on in the semester, and you'll have a full understanding of how perspective works, whether you're drawing the landscape or whether you're drawing buildings or the inside of a room, just making something look like it goes back in the distance. This one is also a simple way to show depth. You could have value changes. Let's say you drew a little hill or a mountain here in the front, and you shaded that in or colored it or painted it as dark as you possibly could. That's going to make it appear closer to the viewer. Let's say that this one goes up a little bit. And then let's say you've got another little mountain or hill back here, and it's shaded in but not as dark, kind of a medium value. That's going to make it look like it goes back in the distance. And then let's say the third little mountain or hill back here is very light. Whatever type of shading you happen to be doing. And that's also going to give you some really quick, simple value changes just by changing the lightness or darkness of it. Placement is similar to size, except if they are same, like you didn't reduce the size in placement, but you just moved it back, even then it's going to look like it has some depth to it. And then the last one is just detail. So let's say that you had, let's say you had just a skyline up here, and you had all the little doors and windows and all the details that you wanted to include on this building or on the street or whatever it is that's up close. And then back here, maybe on the horizon line, it will be less detail. So the closer it is to you, the more you're going to be able to see of those objects. So like if you drew a tree, you would be able to see all of the branches and limbs and all of that. And then in the back, it's just going to be the shape of a tree. Okay, so those are some quick, simple ways that you can show depth. So give examples of all of those and just keep it simple. Just do some quick shapes or something that's going to explain that. And if you want to write little notes inside of there as part of your layout, that will be lovely and great too. So then down here, this is all about composition. So this is about showing depth. And then these are about different ways that you can lay out a composition. So you could do it to where you are drawing something big. So I think I'm going to do mine with the word space. So let's say that I am drawing the letters for space, and I'm just going to make them extra big. Overlapping them. But that's one way I've used my space, is to draw it big. I could also do it where it is symmetrically balanced. So let's say theoretically that's the center. So maybe I'm going to and there I've got a lot of negative space, so I've balanced out the word with some negative space. The other one, you could do this where it just fills, you know, like the lines go off of the page. So you can do different types of balance in that. And then this one, I'm going to do fill the page. So maybe this one, I am going to repeat this and fill my space with repetition. And you get the idea. If you were drawing a simple shape, circles or whatever, you would fill the entire block to use the space that way. So try some different composition layouts, if you will. So, and they don't have to be these, they can be you know, there's lots of compositional layouts. You could do asymmetrical, where you've got just one thing over here and a lot of things over here, where it's visually weighted on one side. That's up to you how you're going to show 3 different types of compositions down here. And if you want to make little notes on that, your layout may be totally different than this, as long as it has those same information, where you're showing 4 to 6 ways to show depth and 3 different compositions, and then tell us something about positive and negative. That will be great. All right, I'm just breaking that up so that my video will upload. Okay, so in the positive and negative space design that you're doing, there are there's 3 or 4 examples on the project guidelines. I'm going to show you one way. It's all the same basic concept no matter which way you choose to lay yours out, and you might invent your own way to lay it out, and that will be fine too. For this one, I just divided the paper in half and in half again, and then each of those sections I divided it diagonally, and then I'm probably going to divide that again. So this one, and this one, and you can decide how many times you're going to divide it. You may not even be doing this type of design, but it's the same concept. So on this one, I'm going to move these lines in this direction. When I get to the next section, I'm going to go in the opposite direction, but I'm going to make those match up. So one of the things about doing a positive and negative abstract design, to make it sort of an op art, optical illusion type use of your space, the lines have to be pretty precise in that they need to match up, and the fill, the color, needs to be pretty precise as well. So then when I get to the next section, I will reverse the direction again. Go this way. And I'll continue to do that all the way around my paper. When I get all the lines laid out, I'm going to start filling it in. I'm going to do mine in black because I think that's the easiest way to see the difference in positive and negative. So it's just a good visual contrast. So I'm going to fill this in, and in this section, the black is the positive space, and then I'll leave these two whites as the negative space. Then when I get up here, I'm going to switch it, and now this white is the positive, and this black over here, I'm going to fill it in the opposite. So every time I switch sections, I will switch whether the shape is positive or negative. And it sounds confusing, but once you get going on it, it's going to be very simple. I'm going to finish the rest of what I'm going to show you in the time lapse, and then you can decide how you want to lay yours out and how you want to do it. Okay, so, and I'm using a flare pen to fill mine in. You could use a Sharpie. If you're using a Sharpie, remember it's probably going to come through to the other side, so you may want to put something under it. You could also use colored pencil. You could use crayon. Whatever you have that you want to use will be fine. Okay. All right, so I have about half of it done, and I'm gonna do the other half during class. So my phone's about to die. One thing I probably would have done if I did it over is I would have drawn myself a little border, because when you get over here to this edge, it's difficult to get in where you want to get. So you may want to draw a little rectangle and then start from there. All right, so lay out all of your definitions that are listed on the assignment sheet. Decide what type of positive negative reversal you're going to do. Lay it out in pencil, and then just take your time and fill it in.